I guess when we talk about this idea that you're on the wrong or the right path, the reason it's so important to me is because at times in my life I felt like I was on the wrong path and I was doing something that I wasn't meant to do. And there were times where I thought I was doing something that I was meant to do when really it was just a stepping stone. And so it took a lot of reflection and clarification and revisiting moments for me to identify some of the signs that were given to me. There were moments in my life where there were signs where life said, "Hey, wake up." And I was just so oblivious. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of the signs. So these are five signs that I've been able to identify in moments where I was completely on the wrong path. And had I known about these signs, I would have been more aware and I would have strategized and moved differently. The first one is you keep living and existing in this cycle. Now, obviously, we all live in cycles, but it's a draining cycle. Let's take the most successful and transformative version of you. That version of you has a cycle. That person wakes up at a certain time, talks to certain people, does certain things on repeat over and over. But it's not draining, it's excitement, right? You can tell you're on the wrong path, or you can tell if you're not doing what you're meant to be doing if the cycle that you have is just draining. You wake up at the same time and you're like, oh my gosh, again. And then you have to see the same people. And you're like, I have to see these people again. And you have to go to the same location. And you're like, I got to go there again. And if anything, day by day, it just pulls a piece of your soul more and more and more until you're hopeless and until you get to a point where you're like, I'm screwed. There's nothing that I can do. That's the first thing is that there's this constant cycle. And well, I talk about this cycle of vices all the time, right? We all have vices. And I tell people that ask me, how can I get over my vices to avoid the cycle? Identify the cycle and then avoid it, right? And usually the cycle of engaging in and indulging in your vices are pretty much the same thing. It starts with free time, and then free time leads to boredom. Boredom leads to a desire to be stimulated. A desire to be stimulated leads to you try to find a way to be stimulated. From there, you go on your phone, you watch a movie, and then from there, it's not enough, and you want to one up that, and then so you stimulate yourself with your vice, and then you engage in your vice, and you indulge in it, and the cycle continues. And it all starts with free time, right? All of it. So when we look at the cycle of life, it's the same thing. Are you stuck in the same cycle because you're scared to take the leap? Are you stuck in the same cycle because you have to be, or you think you may have to be? Are you stuck in the same cycle because you don't know any other way? Are you stuck in that same cycle because it's what you've chose? Cycles are good and they're fine. Patterns are fine. But not if it's draining, not if there's no excitement, not if you're stuck in a cycle that doesn't help you grow. The more you exist in this cycle, the worse you become, the more hopeless you become, and the more you get used to this idea that maybe this is my life. And what happens is you create contentment, stagnation, and consolidation. You don't grow, you stagnate. You stay the same, day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year after year. Nothing changes. And it's a very dangerous cycle. So you can identify that. Just look how your day-to-days look like. Look how the past month has been, the past 6 months, maybe year. If it's been the same thing, that's a sign that's life trying to say, you are not meant to be doing these things. That's why you're so drained. Once you do what you're meant to do, you won't be drained. You'll be full of energy and excitement. So that's the first thing. The second one is you keep feeling like you're meant for more. Now, I've had this creeping thought when I was doing good and when I was doing bad. I don't think that it's a thought that we can necessarily conquer. I also don't think that it's a thought that we can get rid of. We can always do more, right? I mean, hey, you get $100, I'm sure you can get 200. You get a million, I'm sure you can get two, then five, then 10. You achieve one goal, I'm sure you could set your aims on another goal and achieve that goal as well. You grow and you create, I'm sure you can grow and create more. You have one kid, I'm sure you can make another one. There's always more. But you have to know the difference between I am meant for more and I am addicted to more. This is a huge comparison that you have to create so that you can identify both. Compare what you want to what you're meant for. Because if you want more, but it's in this disease of more and you become addicted to it, then maybe you shouldn't be wanting more. Maybe what you need to understand is you need to slow down. Maybe you don't need to step on the brake or on the gas anymore. Maybe it's a time where perhaps you just need to coast. Perhaps you need to actually slam on the brakes and slow down. Now, if you feel like you're meant for more because your life isn't going how you want it to go, that's another sign that you're on the wrong path. We talk about God's voice all the time, and God's voice it isn't a shouting voice that screams to you on a microphone. It can be a thought that you have. It can be a conversation you have, a billboard that you read. It could be anything. Now you have to know who's speaking, right? Because when you pick up the phone and you're talking, there's two people listening in. Is this God speaking to you? Or is this another energy that's speaking to you? And you have to have some type of discernment to know, why do you want more? Is it because you're not content and you just need to keep wanting more? Like you're an addicted slave, a slave to impulse, a slave to desiring? Or is it truly because your life isn't necessarily what you deem is the best potential? And in doing so, in acknowledging that, you say, well, perhaps I am meant for more. Maybe I can do more in my life. So the easiest way for you to tell if you're on the wrong path is this creeping thought of, I'm meant to do more. It's a reminder. It's almost like the inner coach. It's your inner voice that's reminding you, do not be content right here. Not here. Now, if you scale and you win and you succeed and you start growing and you get to a point where you get to play the game, and by the way, it's an infinite game. There is no winning the game, but let's say you embark on the path of playing the game and you obtain a large amount of wealth and you're able to help people and you're doing this and you're doing that and you still feel like you're meant for more. It's because you're so addicted. That's when you need to know you need to slow down. But unless you're at that point, then you don't need to worry about this addiction to more, because evidently your life isn't more, it's less. So it's the inner voice that's whispering to you, that's reminding you, you can do more. That's why you feel like you're meant for more. But that inner voice, if it says you can do more, that won't help. Because of course we know we can do more, but we don't necessarily take action on that. We don't do anything with that. Oh, you're meant for more, or you can do more. Nice. I know I can do more. What the heck am I supposed to do? When that inner voice says you are meant for more, then you begin to search for what it means. You're like, I'm meant for more. Well, what am I supposed to do? What can I do? The search is enhanced when you ask, what am I meant for? As opposed to, can I? Of course you can. But what are you meant to do? You'll search and you'll embark on the journey of search. If you can ask that question, that's why the inner voice keeps whispering that to you. The third sign that you're on the wrong path is you don't have any more excitement. Every day has become dull. There's no color. It's just gray. The sky isn't blue. It's like a lightly toned gray. The sun isn't as bright as it used to be. The grass isn't as green as it used to be. The world seems so dark and bitter, and you're so resentful. You really don't like the world or the people that make up the world. You're not a big fan of talking to people. Humans are not meant to necessarily be alone. I know some of us have had the tragic and I mean, I'd say in hindsight, it's a beautiful thing, but it's tragic in the moment. We've had tragedy and we've been dealt a hand to where we are alone. I know some people that when I hear about their life, I'm like, wow, you are actually alone. But there's always someone in our lives. No matter how alone we feel, there's someone. It could be your mom, your dad, your daughter, your son, your brother, your sister. God and the world and the universe always gives you someone to not feel entirely alone. If you really are 100% alone, which I say is not the case for I'd say 90% of people, then you've just chosen to feel alone. And when you talk about being alone, you have to really define it. And for me, I define being alone as no one understood me. And my gosh, I mean, who the heck can understand my life? They didn't live my life. They didn't see life through my lens. They didn't walk in my shoes. So my definition of being alone did not help. I really felt alone because no one understood me. And then I also define alone by having no support. So what I did in those moments where I felt alone was I said, well, the company that I do have is anyone that will care to understand. And I've had some people that cared to understood or to care that cared enough to understand at the time. And the only company I had at the time was myself. And so long as I had myself and I had a force of creation that would propel me and push me and never leave my side, I felt like I was never alone, which gave me some type of hope and excitement to keep tackling on every day. But if you wake up and you're not even excited to do anything, that's another sign that there's a piece of the link that's missing, and all you have to do is reconnect that link, and everything will just spark. Everything will just make sense. In order for us to build that excitement again, we have to start doing something that, well, we enjoy. And I'm against this and I'm not against this because I say that in the early stages, it really doesn't matter about your passion. It really doesn't matter about what you want to do, what you feel like you want to. It really doesn't freaking matter. Because in the early stages, the one thing you need to focus on is just having enough resources to survive. So that means, I mean, I wasn't passionate or excited when I was scrubbing toilets at the gym, but that was a stepping stone. I needed that. I needed those moments where I was a janitor so that I could get to a moment now where I'm actually excited to wake up every day. I can't wait. I can't wait. The ups and the downs. I'm looking forward to all of it. The ups, I'm looking forward to the downs. I'm looking forward to the drawbacks. I'm looking forward to the upside potential. I love it all. But it took me years to get to this point. And well, if I could tell my younger self something, it would be you are meant for more and you are not on the right path. But it is the necessary path. You're not where you want to be on the path. You're still on the path because when I was a janitor, I thought I was on the wrong path. I wasn't on the wrong path. I just, I needed to be at that exact location because I was on the right path. But I couldn't see that far into the future. Now, let's say I go back in time and I'm a janitor again, and then in 5 years, I'm still a janitor. Then evidently I'm on the wrong path because life presented opportunities to me out of nowhere. I didn't make them. They presented themselves to me. I'm not that good. Life took care of me. And I say that because you may feel like you're on the wrong path when really you're exactly where you need to be because you might be in the building phases. The building phase has a cycle too. The building phase has this draining cycle, but it takes time. You need to wait at least a year or two for an opportunity to present itself so that you can see, oh wow, that's why I was there. And well, that's exactly it. You need to wait. That's the hardest thing for any of us to do is wait. Because it's like we want it now, now, now. We want the instant gratification. We want the results. Anything we want it now. And it's almost as though we fail to realize that anything great takes a significant amount of time to obtain and to achieve, be it wealth, anything, growth. But if you have no excitement, that's also a sure sign that you're on the wrong path. To give yourself excitement, if you've reflected and you've sat down and you've been able to identify that I may not be where I want to be right now, but this is the path I'm meant to be on because this is my building phase, then the only way for you to gain excitement is to constantly reinforce the idea that this is necessary. So I wish I could tell my younger self that was scrubbing toilets and picking up bloody tampons at the commercial gym. I wish I can tell them, you are on the right path. This is completely necessary because you're going to meet some people in this job, and then opportunities are going to present itself, and then you're going to get connected with more people. You may not want to scrub toilets. You may not want to mop the bathroom floor and scrub the showers, but this is necessary. And if I'm able to communicate with my old self and say, yeah, you're supposed to do this, you're meant to, he would probably be in a happier mood every day. He'd be more excited because he's like, oh my gosh, I am on my path. And that's the problem. I guess that's the paradox, right? We sometimes the path that we're on is our path. It's just not where we want to be. There are stages. You have the building phase, you have the solitude isolation phase, you have the mastery phase, and then you have the phase where you distribute. That was my building phase, and I wanted the distribution phase or the mastery phase. Baby steps. Like you don't go into the gym and start trying to deadlift 900 pounds. You might start with the bar, then you'll increase the weights. There are ways to get there, but it takes time. And life is designed that way so that we don't screw ourselves up. Can you imagine how you would feel if this is your first time in the gym and you decide to come in, load up 900 pounds on the bar, and then expect to lift it? Oh, you'd be disappointed. You'd be let down. And I think that's the problem with a lot of us is that our expectations of how soon we are supposed to obtain or achieve something is so distorted. It's like we want results fast within 6 months or a year. It takes 10. It takes 5. The fact that you want it so soon is literally why you're suffering. So, again, that's the third sign, which is you just have no excitement. And the easiest way for me, if I could give you some advice on how to be excited, is to one, acknowledge that maybe you're at a position in life or you're at a point in life where this is completely necessary. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're going through, it is 100% necessary to build yourself. And that's the only way I know to give you some excitement. Or on the other hand, you could just leave your job, stop doing what you're doing, and roll the dice and truly start embarking on the path that you want to create and do the thing that you want to do. But if you're not able to sum up that courage, because I didn't have that courage, then the easiest way for me to tell you to get excited again is by reminding yourself this phase is completely necessary. And if I can embody this phase, I will just be that much better. So here's the fourth thing. The fourth sign you know you're on the wrong path is you're living purely to please others. This falls into external validation, and you guys will know I talk about that all the time. If you are, okay, now listen, if I decided to listen to my mother, my father, or my older brother about what I should do with my life, I would probably still be in the military, trying to go for 20 years so I can retire. And I'd probably be in school trying to get a degree that I don't care about. And that 100% doesn't sound like the path that I want to embark on, nor do I ever want to embark on that path. And that's what I mean when I say if you are doing things to live for others, if you're trying to live your life so that you can help, so that you can meet other people's expectations of what they deem is necessary for your life, you're in a tough spot. People don't know what's best for you. They only know what they want. So we're always going to campaign for what we've gone through, right? So if someone that's gone to school and got a degree and now works a job that makes 100K a year, that person's going to campaign for people going to school. And he'll create an undeniable stack of evidence and build a very strong case as to why going to school is amazing, because you'll meet people from different backgrounds. You'll learn how to be sociable. You'll learn things that okay. I didn't do that. I went to the military and I got a sales job, and then I just literally was in close proximity with entrepreneurs, and it inspired me to try to do something on my own. And so I'm going to campaign for not going to school, not having a degree, none of that stuff. I know people that went to school for years, studied like kinesiology, and they fell in like 50K, 75K, 100K of student debt just to work as a personal trainer at the gym. When I was at the gym, I'd spent 4 hours taking a course online, paid $150 for a certification, and I was a personal trainer and we were making the same amount of money. You see the difference there? So when you have family members like your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, who cares? A loved one that thinks they know what's best for your life, you need to remind yourself that they don't. They see your life as, oh my gosh, I can get a second shot. That's what they see. They see you as almost like a second chance. So if they didn't go to school, they're going to say, you should go to school. Almost using you as like a, hey, since I screwed up, your life is basically my life. And so you do what I say because I think I know what's best for you. No, you don't. So remember that no matter how close someone may be to you, unless they truly have your best interest, they don't know what's best for you. And the only way to judge if somebody has your best interest is if they truly understand you. Because if they don't know anything about you or your desires, they don't ask questions, they don't care to get to know you, they don't want to know what your dream is. If they don't really fully understand that, then they don't get to call the shots. Because then if they call the shots, it's purely off, here's what I think you should do. Since this is what I think you should do, I also think it's what's best for you, which is never the case. So if you're living a life where you're trying to please your parents, not let people down, I'd say you're on the wrong path, because the closer you can start living for yourself, and I'm not by any means saying be selfish, turn your back on the world and just be the self-centered freak. I'm saying make decisions to benefit the only person that matters, which is the future version of you. The version of you at 70 years old, that's the person that matters. That's who you need to make decisions for, to impress that person. Not your mother, not your father, not your brother, not your close relative. Impress future you. Don't live to a- appeal to others and please others. You don't need to do that. It's selfless until it becomes the very thing that drains you and makes you feel empty, almost as though you have zero vitality and you don't even want to exist anymore. You have a whole life ahead of you, and you're going to make bad decisions and you're going to call the wrong shots, but I'd rather you call a shot for your life and be wrong than have another person call the shot for your life and they're wrong. Even if they're right, are you just going to let them govern you? It's your life. They didn't see what you saw, felt how you felt. Only you know how you felt. Only you saw what you saw. Those moments of pain and agony, only you know about it. So you owe it to yourself to put your foot down and say, moving forward, I am going to make decisions for my future life. And that does not include listening to you. Now, don't be closed off to their opinions. They may say something. You never know who may impress you. Be open to the opinions of others. Be welcoming. So if your brother, your mother, your father has their 2 cents to put in, listen. And if you don't like it, then just listen. Say, yeah, that wasn't too bad. And discard of it. That's it. Discard of it and continue doing you. Here's the last one. The last sign that you are not on your desired path is that you're experiencing no growth. And when I say no growth, I'm talking about 4 sectors when it comes to human endeavors, which is physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. If you are not experiencing growth physically, meaning you are not becoming more physically capable, stronger, that's a sign. If you're getting lazier, then that's a mental sign of stunting your growth. If you're not growing mentally, it means you're existing in comfort. It means you're not doing anything challenging. It means you are training your mind to become weak. If anything, now your mind governs you, you don't govern your mind. If you're not growing spiritually, it also means that you are self centered. You don't have any divine connection with anything else. You see the world through a very narrow lens. You can't expand that lens. And if you're not growing emotionally, it means you have no freaking clue about who you are. So there's no level of self awareness. There's no level of knowledge of self. You haven't spent time to reflect because, well, you're not emotionally capable. So when I say you're not growing, you have to consider all sectors. If you're only growing in one sector, then perhaps you might be on the right path, but you need to consider ways to grow in other sectors. You can't just grow physically. You can't just only grow spiritually. You can't just only grow emotionally or mentally. You have to grow in every sector. And obviously, when I say physically, that includes anything tangible, right? So we're talking financially, career wise, anything like that. Also, I'm talking about the body, so how strong you can get, what you can push your body to, how healthy you can become, stuff like that. Usually, when you're on the right path, you're experiencing growth in every sector, meaning you allocate time towards training and being healthy. You allocate time towards learning and enhancing your mental capacity. You're allocating time towards being still, so spiritually. You're allocating time towards reflecting. You're allocating time towards building yourself, learning how to obtain a resource like money, right? A lot of people like tangible things because they can see it, they can touch it, and it's great. It's great. If you can define what growth is to you and and speak about it so that you can see it, so it becomes kind of something tangible and you're like, oh, okay, all I have to do is this and this to grow. I think it's a great method for us to take action, because if we don't define growth, then growth becomes a million different things. You can literally grow by just living. You can grow by brushing your teeth. You can grow by doing nothing. Growth has to be defined by the individual. I can't define growth for you, but what I can do is I can tell you how I've defined growth. And growth to me is growing in those four sectors. If I'm doing anything that's relative to any of those four sectors, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I'm growing. So if I'm reading a book, I'm growing, even if I'm not making money. If I'm making money, I'm growing, even if I'm not getting smarter. If I'm training, even though I'm not reading a book, I'm growing. If I'm reflecting and I'm spending time being still and understanding my life and my behaviors and who I am, I'm growing. Even if I'm not even if I'm not training, even if I'm not getting money. So it what it does is it allows me to do a variety of different things which inevitably just catapult me towards my desired end goal, which is squeeze every last drip of potential out of me. You have to experience growth in all sectors. Not just one, not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional. So, a quick recap. If any of this sounds like you, I would urge you, and I will give practical steps right now. But if any of this sounds like you, start reflecting. If you are living in a very damaging and draining cycle, same thing day after day, you can't overcome your bad habits and it's the same draining thing and it feels like, oh my gosh, I'm boom, boom, boom. If you feel like you're meant for more and you're doing something that you don't enjoy, if you have no excitement when the sun comes up, if you are living a life to please others, and if you are experiencing absolutely no growth, you might not be on the right path. So, here are some practical steps. This is just what worked for me. If what you're doing is working for you, then you keep doing that. But if nothing has worked for you so far, then I'd say just consider this. I spent hours looking at the same tree in the military, and I also had the means to. I had the time. Now, if you don't have time, it might be a little different. If you do have time, I'll tell you what you can do, and then if you don't have time, I'll kind of adjust it. If you have time, I'd really urge you to sit outside on a chair, get some sun, and just think. No social media, no books, no nothing. Just listen to the birds and think. And do that for long enough until you know how to properly think. And when you can properly think, then you can identify certain aspects of your life, which is, what am I good at? What is something that I do that I'm naturally gifted at and skilled at? Now, this can be your lever, so you have to pay very close attention to this sign. It can literally be the reason that you transform. You just have to be aware of it. Now, ask yourself what you're naturally good at. Ask yourself what's something you would do for the rest of your life without getting paid a dollar. If success were no tangible thing like money or fame or anything, or a car or a house, what would it be to you? And then once you have a, doesn't have to be a fully put together answer, but once you can create an answer by means of logically thinking, then you can ask yourself, how can I get paid for this? So if you are a magnificent artist and you are really good at painting, how can you get paid for this? Well, you might want to tell people that you paint. You might want to show people, and you might want to try to sell it for $5. If you can sell it for $5, I'm sure you can sell it for 10. If you can sell it for 10, I'm sure you can sell it for 20, so on and so forth. Once you ask, how can I get paid for this? Then you have to ask, how can this help the world? And then you enhance that vision. You can look up something called Ikigai. I hope I say that right. It's Ikigai. You figure out what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can get paid for. In the center, it's what you should do. And then, well, if you want to embark on the path, it looks something like this, where you have to set your sights on something, decide that this is the thing you want. You have to enter a stage of isolation and solitude. You have to really perfect that craft, whatever it is, get really good at it. You become a master. That's where you enter mastery, where you get really good at that. And then once you get really good at that, you need to share it with the world. So I spent a lot of time studying, and I didn't spend too much time learning how to speak. I would usually just speak to myself. And that's actually why I make YouTube videos, because I spent the time studying. So you guys, the things I'm able to teach you guys, I just recall the past 5 years, and I think about things that have helped me the past 5 years, and I just teach it. And the reason I'm able to teach it is because I spend a lot of time speaking to myself. So this isn't much different. I'm just now speaking to a camera. That's all it is. That's the only difference. And I said, well, I'm not terrible at speaking. I'm not great either. I am not terrible at figuring out what I'm meant to do. I mean, it took me time, and I'm only 24, I'm still growing, but if I've been able to obtain some type of information that will help you guys, then I'll share it. And that's what has allowed me to figure out what to do, which is make content. Now, it's not my main source of income, right? I invest. That's really what I do to make money. This is almost like a creative hobby. It's like an expression, a way of self-expressing myself. Some people do it by dancing, cutting hair, doing art, making music. I talk for hours to a camera and post the video on YouTube. That is my way of expression. So you can do those things and ask yourself those questions, but it requires time alone. It requires you to sit outside and not do anything and being still. Now, if you don't have time, then the best thing I can encourage you to do is find time, which is not stop your day-to-day activities. You have time when you begin to wind down for bed, and you have time during your lunch break at work. Use any type of window you have to think and obsess over what you want for your life. And you need to create a very, very clear vision. It doesn't have to be detailed. Like, you don't need to know how you're going to get there, but see it, feel it, breathe it. Where are you? How do you look? What are you doing? How do you feel? How are you thinking? How do you speak? Who's around you? When you can identify that, then you're like, okay, well, that's what I want, and that's all that it takes. It takes a desire. Once the desire is set, now you can embark on, okay, how am I going to get there? And you can start with, what am I doing? So if in the future, in that vision, you are a trainer, a personal trainer, okay, you might like fitness. So let's try to pick up a personal training gig at the gym. Let's see if you can train people through Instagram for free. How about posting something on Instagram saying, hey guys, if you guys didn't know, I used to look like this. Now I look like this. I am open to giving you meal preps and workout plans, and I will train you completely for free. All you have to do is give me a testimonial. There you go. That's your first non-paid client. And then you do that again, and you probably get you post there before and afters and show people that you've been able to help someone. Then you'll probably get more DMs talking about, oh my gosh, can you help me? So now you're getting closer to what you want to do. And then you can say, well, how do I feel? How do I talk? What am I thinking about? And you do the same process. So if you are happy, figure out how you can be happy now. If you're positive, full of light, figure out what's the thing that can spark you now and do it. But you need a desire, and to create a desire, you need to have that vision. Once that vision is created, then you want it and you desire it, then you'll look for it. And I love using this example because when you really want something, it almost feels like it doesn't even take energy to look for it. Like if you're extremely thirsty, for you to get up out of bed and get water isn't that hard because you're thirsty, you need it. If you're not that thirsty, the desire to get out of bed and drink water is close to zero, right? And we can use that in life. So that means how we move is directly proportional to how bad we want it. And I love using fear as a lever. And I used to have this, to a degree, I still do, but I used to have this very insane mental framework, which is if I knew I needed to go to the gym and train, and I didn't, I would just imagine a gun held to my mother's head, and if I didn't, she would die. And I said, well, now I'm going. It was really that simple because I imagine if that happened in real life, the amount of courage and strength and motivation that I would need to go to the gym, I don't care because I'm going to do whatever it takes to save her. So you need to be able to get into this framework and kind of brainwash yourself to say, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to save myself no matter what. The thing is, the reason we don't get there is because we acknowledge what we have to do and we think we don't have to do it. Oh, such a drag. And that's the cycle that catches a lot of people, gets a lot of people caught up. And then they end up screwed, right? So those are just 5 signs that you're on the wrong path. Consider it. And if you want to know how you're on the right path, I'll probably make a separate video. But I like to figure out how to avoid things. I look at the bad so that we know what the good is. So you can take this in reverse. So if you living in a draining cycle is a sign you're on the wrong path, you living in a cycle that's enhancing yourself, growing, that's a sign you're on a good path. If you keep feeling like you're meant for more and you switch that reverse and you say, you are getting more. And you feel like, oh my gosh, I can do everything because I've done this much so far, boom, 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 then maybe you're on the right path. If you have no excitement, let's flip it and say, if every day you wake up and you're excited, that might be a sign you're on the right path. If you're living a life for others, maybe flip it. If you're living a life purely for yourself, not in a selfish way, but just prioritizing yourself for the current moment so that you can give yourself to the world, if that's you, maybe you're doing a good deal. And lastly, if you're experiencing no growth, let's flip it. If every day you're growing, you might just be doing something right. We are our greatest critic. We need to be our greatest coach. The coach doesn't just criticize every movement. You do good, the coach will be like, good job. Sometimes we always criticize ourselves and we don't know how to reward or applaud ourselves for the things that we've done so far. And that hinders our growth. If you're able to just step back and acknowledge how far you've come and the things that you've done, that is a positive reinforcement loop, which will cause you to want to continue to behave in that manner. Kobe has this Mamba mentality that you guys know about, where he was doing an interview. He had won 2 out of 5 games. He needed 3 or 4. I think he needed 3 with just one more win to take home the series or to win the series. And an interviewer asked him, you won 2 out of 5. Aren't you excited? He's like, why am I excited? Job's not done. Now that's great if you have that mentality and you're going to go no matter what. But sometimes what people might need is that positive reinforcement loop, which is, hey, we're doing good. We got 2. And it motivates them. It's like, yes, I got 2. Just one more. Now you have to know who you are, right? Kobe seems to be the dude that I have 2, but I want 3. So I'm going to get 3. Okay, that's him. I myself, I like that positive reinforcement loop because when we pay attention to the gap of where we are versus where we have to be or still have to go, oh my gosh, it's draining. It's unmotivating. But if we look at where we are versus how far or where we used to be, it's not unmotivating. If anything, it's motivating because it's like, wow, I've made it so far. You just have to acknowledge both ends. Acknowledge that you've made it far, but still desire to move forward. Instead of failing to realize how far you made it and still go forward, because then you feel like it's never enough. It's the next and the next and the next. I'm telling you, that's a very dangerous cycle to fall down. Those are just my 2 cents on ways to find out if you're on the wrong path. I had to look back on my life in moments where I knew I was on the wrong path, or I didn't know at the time, but in hindsight, I know now, and those were the common themes. I hope this video was helpful. That's all I got.